my first guest knows something about this question. William J. Brennan is a veteran criminal defense attorney who, as co-counsel with Michael Van Der Veen, represented the Trump Payroll Corporation in the 2022 criminal case in front of the same judge and in the same courtroom. Brennan conducted the voir dire in that case, and William J. Brennan joins me now. Bill, thank you for being here. What stands out from your jury selection process?
Good morning, Michael. The biggest difference will be that in our case, same courtroom, same judge, same type of case, criminal. We had an entity, a corporate entity. Our client was the Trump Payroll Corporation. In this case, the former president of the United States will be in the courtroom. Huge difference.
Were there circumstances, I'm sure there were, maybe you can share one with us, where you thought someone should have been removed for cause and Judge Merchan thought otherwise?
Yes, there were quite a few, actually. One comes to mind. We had a questionnaire. I don't think it was quite as long as this one that I saw in the current case, but I think questions 29 and 30 were something like, do you have strong opinions about the former president? And that was 29, and 30 was, if so, would they affect your ability to be fair? And we had one prospective juror, and I've been picking juries really since the late 80s, a long, long time. And, you think you have some intuitive skill set, develop them. But I saw a female juror, probably in her 40s, casually dressed. She had an Irish brogue. She worked at an Irish bar. Normally my type of juror in a criminal case. And she had checked off 29 and 30. And it was late in the day. And I asked her, I see you've checked these off. Would those strong feelings be positive or negative? And she says, I despise that man. And I guess I had just maybe was beat up from the long day. But I said, well, look, you don't have to sugarcoat it for me. Speak your mind. She said, I'll speak me mind. I hate him. And, I've never experienced that. And I looked at Judge Merchan and, I just kind of assumed that he would meet my gaze and we would dismiss her. But Judge Merchan, who was a very smart and capable judge, and he ran a tight ship, he said, well, now, wait a minute. He said, if I told you what the law was and instructed you on the law, could you put those feelings aside and deliver a fair verdict? And she said, yes. And it's been my experience, and I suspect it was your experience when you're actively practicing law, that when a prospective juror is in the courtroom and there's the pomp and circumstance and the judge is in his or her black robe, most people do say yes. So he kept her for the next round, which really meant he was going to keep her. And we came up with a different strategy. She had a parental health issue she was dealing with, and we got her out that way. But, Michael, the problem was not that prospective juror. It was like rows of shark teeth. Once she went, there were 50 more behind her. So, we got rid of her and didn't have to use a preemptive
let me ask
strike,
you this.
But they're difficult.
Are you more concerned in voir dire when it's a Trump-affiliated corporation, or as it'll be Monday with the man himself? Are you more concerned representing him about the woman with the Irish brogue who says, I hate him, or the sleeper who's not telling you anything and not showing you where they're coming from?
Well, you just hit the nail on the head. That's, she was obvious. She had her fin out of the water. You could see, you could see where she was from the boat. It's the sharks that are under the water that are the problem. And when somebody checks no box and you just have a feeling, boy, I don't think this guy's going to be good for us. And you say, well, sir, on paper, you appear to be the perfect juror, but you sure there's not anything, maybe something even in your own mind that would cause you to give pause or hesitation and that you're, I'm good. Put me in, coach. I'm fine. I'll be great. That's the juror that scares me because, as you said, it's a sleeper cell juror. And, Michael, it's important to remember where we pick from up there. You pick from the island of Manhattan.
So what of the mindset that it only takes one? The rule of it only takes one. You're just looking for that one who could make sure there's not a unanimous verdict. Does that apply when it's Donald Trump or a Trump-related affiliate?
I think that applies in any criminal case. Look, we go into every case that we decide to try with an eye towards winning. But a lot of times in criminal law, you play for the fumble. You need a unanimous jury of 12 in most jurisdictions to get a conviction. And if you get one juror as a holdout, that hung jury can really be a game changer. And I think it does apply, but I think it's tougher when the defendant, is this particular defendant, and it's just the island of Manhattan that provides the potential jury pool.
Okay, Bill, you're uniquely qualified to address this subject. Like, the whole world is wondering about the jury selection process in a Trump-related case. You did it in front of this judge and in the same courtroom. So what's your answer to my poll question today? Can Donald Trump get a fair trial in Manhattan?
It'd be better off in Staten Island, Michael. It's a tough group to pick from. It's often said that his name, across the country, 50% feel one way and 50 another way. But it's been my experience, having gone through hundreds of prospective jurors, that on that island, it's not a 50-50 split. My experience only.
William J. Brennan, thank you for the insight. Really appreciate it.
With us now, CNN legal analyst, former federal prosecutor Jennifer Rogers. Counselor, you say there are three major things we need to watch over the course of this trial. The first one starts in hours, and that's jury selection.
Yeah, it's always important. It's super important here, where you have a defendant that everyone in that jury room knows and likely has strong opinions about. So both sides are going to be really focused on this, but it's particularly fraught for prosecutors because, of course, prosecutors need unanimity, right? They need all 12 jurors to find him guilty in order to convict. And so they have to be able to exclude every single person who is unfairly pro-Trump, right? Whereas the Trump folks only have to exclude some people. So it's really, really important, and the case may be won or lost right here in jury selection.
And you think the Trump team will be looking at the jury, not just beginning today, but all through the trial?
I do, because they're going to be looking for problems with jurors, things that maybe they didn't disclose during voir dire. They might try to get rid of a juror even in the middle of trial. Certainly after trial, if it doesn't go their way, they'll be looking for jurors who maybe weren't honest during voir dire. They'll be scrubbing social media and all those things to try to make motions to overturn the verdict if it doesn't go
People
their
need
way.
to pay very close attention today and the next several days as this goes on for the types of questions that are asked, the types of answers these jurors give. We'll, of course, be all over that. In the meantime, after the jury is seated, we hear from witnesses. The most important witness in this case is probably Michael Cohen. I say most important, but also probably most fraught.
Yeah, he's central to this case. He's the one, of course, who reimbursed who paid Stormy Daniels and then got reimbursed by the former president. He gives central testimony about what Trump actually knew was happening. So he is the central figure. Now, he's corroborated, prosecutors say, by documents and other witnesses. So he's not the whole ball game, but he's really the most important piece. He's also famously at odds with Trump, right? They despise each other, you could say. Michael Cohen makes no secret of that, so he's got an obvious bias. And he's lied. He's admitted to lying under oath. So there's all these issues at play, and my real question for Michael Cohen is, can he keep his cool under what will be really, really aggressive
We'll talk about that. How does the
cross-examination?
prosecution try to keep him disciplined, and how will the defense try to throw him?
Well, you prep him, right? You meet with him over and over. You tell him what to expect. You go through mock cross-examinations where you really, really prod at him and hope that after all of that prep and going through all that so many times, he can accomplish that on the stand.
And the defense?
Well, they're going to go after him with everything they have. They'll call him a liar. They'll go through his testimony and, why he was lying. He even recently said that when he pleaded guilty in front of a judge, which of course is under oath, that he really didn't think he was guilty of those offenses. So he's been giving them more and more fodder, and they're going to use all of it.
And of course, the prosecution will try to get out in front of every one of those specific allegations. Donald Trump himself, he has once again, every time there's a case involving Trump, he muses, I may testify, I want to testify. He's saying it again now. How high would the stakes be for him? What goes into that decision?
Well, as soon as a defendant testifies, everything else kind of fades away, right? That becomes the key thing. And that's what they have to think about here. It would be really risky for him to testify, and there's no way he's going to do it if they don't get a really good ruling from the judge on what prosecutors can and can't go into on cross-examination. Of course, they can ask about the incident at hand. Of course, they can go into anything that was the subject of direct examination. But normally, you're also able to prosecute using, or to cross-examine using impeachment evidence, and that includes questions about reputation for dishonesty, no one has a stronger reputation for dishonesty than the former president. I mean, 30,000 false statements during his presidency, according to the media, all sorts of court cases in which he's been found liable for lying and fraud. So there's so much ammunition there that if they don't get the judge to say that some of that is off the table, I don't think he'll testify at all.